Joining us now, Congressman, Republican, 1st District of Virginia, and Chairman of the Subcommittee on Military Readiness, Rob Wittman. Congressman, great to have you back.
John, good morning. It's great to be back with you.
Look, I got to go into politics. I'm just saying this because your name has come up here at this convention about a potential candidate for governor, and there's been a lot of enthusiasm. I know you've not made a final decision on it, but, normally you banter about names and you get, mixed, but every time your name came up to people, there was a very enthusiastic reaction. So even though you've not announced, you've not made up your mind, you've got a lot of enthusiasm out there.
Well, John, we've been very humbled by the large number of people that have approached us, have talked to us positively about pursuing the Republican nomination to run for governor. I'm extraordinarily humbled by that, and we are certainly having lots of conversations about what that might look like. But, as I've said before, I do believe there's a danger of getting too far out ahead, and our focus is on winning our congressional race here in 2016 and winning back the White House, especially taking Virginia back. And, John, I think that really is the foundation upon which we have to build for Republicans to be successful in 2017, and we have to be successful there. But this really is it's a long path. We were able to hold seats in 15, which I think, in relation to all the money that was poured in Virginia, that was a tremendous success. I think we have the same opportunity in 2016 to even further our organization in how we contact people and how we identify folks and how we get them out to vote. That's going to be critical, because I can tell you the opposition will be doing every bit of that and more this time. So I think that, from my perspective, building a strong effort, not just in the 1st District, but across the state in 2016, to keep our congressional seats, but also to win Virginia for a Republican nominee, I think is the way to set the state up for us to be able to win as Republicans in 2017. So that's kind of the way that I've been looking at it and talking to people, and I really appreciate that. But I do think that one strong effort leads directly into the other. So that's how we've been talking to folks about it and been laying out, our thoughts and ideas about how to structure, what might happen in 17. But I think there's always a danger in getting too far out in front and focusing on 17, and then obviously 16 has to be that building block for us in 17.
Well, look, no question, but I'm just telling you, people, that when your name came up here, people very enthusiastic about it and think you'd be a fabulous candidate. So you just want to keep that in mind.
Yes.
It's interesting, Congressman, what you just said. One of the things we had here is we had a presentation by a former congressman, Republican from Northern Virginia, Tom Davis, and when he was all done, basically what he said is the pathway for a Republican to the White House in 2016 without winning Virginia's 13 electoral votes. He didn't say it was impossible, but he said it was like drawing an inside straight. It is very, very difficult, because he said you'd have to win Iowa and Wisconsin. Now, assuming you win Florida and Ohio, obviously, he said a Republican without Virginia would have to win Ohio, Wisconsin, 2 states that haven't gone Republican in some time. They would also have to win New Hampshire, and so it becomes a really steep mountain to climb without Virginia.
Well, Tom is exactly right, John. Virginia is the pathway to the White House for whoever ends up successful in that race, and that means that we as Republicans have to make sure that we get Virginia back into to the Republican column, and we can do that. And I am enthused by the recent debates and our candidates and the things that they've been speaking about, the things I think are important to folks across the state, and I do believe that we can win Virginia, but it won't be easy. Virginia is a state that's very, very diverse. From Northern Virginia to Hampton Roads to the Roanoke Valley, lots of diverse thoughts and ideas on things. I do think, though, that our ideas about how to get this nation to where it needs to be, get us back on our feet, reestablish our stature economically, reestablish our stature strategically around the world. Those are things that I think our Republican candidates have the right ideas, the ideas that will work, the ideas that will make our economy grow, that will make the current status of the middle class and their salaries get out of this stagnancy and begin to move up. I think those are great ideas there, and I do believe that we win on those ideas, and we can do that here in Virginia. It's just a matter of us getting out there and working hard and making sure people understand how our efforts, our ideas, will make their lives better.
Yeah, he was also saying that Northern Virginia, that Republicans just have to find a way to get over the hump here in Northern Virginia. Obviously, you're not going to carry it, but he was saying that when he was looking at the maps and going through the detail of, he was basically saying that the Northern Virginia Fairfax majorities that Democrats are carrying are getting bigger and bigger, and they're like overwhelming everything else within the state. And he's like, you got to find a way to get maybe 43% in there. If you get 39%, you can't win the state under any circumstances.
Well, Tom's exactly right. The numbers are very clear. As you know, the population increase in Virginia, the vast majority of it's taking place in the Northern Virginia Population Center. And as you look at that, when you travel there, it's an extraordinarily diverse part of the state. And I think there's a strength in that diversity. There are a lot of folks there that I've talked to that as you get into the issues with them, there's much agreement with them on the things that Republicans stand for, but we have got to put the effort in. We have got to be able to make sure we get into the details of what we stand for with those particular folks in those communities in Northern Virginia. And I think when we do that, we can win. And I do believe we can still win places like Loudoun County. It won't be by an overwhelming majority, but I still think that we can win places like Prince William County. Now, it won't be by large margins in Fairfax County. Just as you said, if we narrow the margins of the difference between the votes for our candidates and the Democrat candidates, we win. It's as Tom said, a pretty simple math problem. But the way we do that is we get in there on the ground and we engage all the different communities there, and we talk to them about issues that are important to them, give them our ideas about how our solutions are better than the Democrat solutions. It's a pretty simple formula, but it takes an extraordinary amount of effort, and then you have to build upon that. You can't just come in and say hello one or two times and expect that that's going to be lasting. We have to be in there consistently so that people know that we're concerned about their issues and know that we are going to work to get things done and continue to have conversations with them about how our ideas are going to work for them.
Corey Stewart, Chairman, Supervisors, Prince William County, got 57% on Tuesday of the vote and carried a majority of every minority group in his district. And when I asked him how he did that, he says it's because I just don't show up 2 weeks before the election.
That's right.
I have a relationship. I talk to the different factions, groups, peoples, and I'm a great listener, and I try to understand their needs, and I try to engage with them. And so then when I come up on the ballot, he said they trust me.
Sure.
And maybe that's what more Republicans have to do.
I think Corey's exactly right. It's all about not just coming in once or twice, but being consistent in your presence, being consistent in listening to people within the region, understanding their concerns. And the concerns there are very diverse, from things like transportation to education to regional economics. All those things are extraordinarily important, and people want to know, what specifically are you going to do? And do you understand the issues that they face every day? And they're specific. Those issues are specific to Northern Virginia. And Corey's been successful because, just as he said, he takes the time to sit down with them to understand the specifics of their concerns and then to come up with policies and efforts at the Board of Supervisors to address those issues. So that's exactly the formula that I think is needed for Republicans across the spectrum to be successful in the Northern Virginia area. It's all about effort on the ground and consistent effort on the ground and putting the time in to understand folks' concerns and then making sure they understand how our ideas will address those concerns and how our solutions will make things better for them. It's pretty simple, straightforward formula. And I think, as you saw with the election results from Corey, he gets it, and he gets it right in how he goes about his efforts.
Dr. Wittman, let's get to foreign policy. Obama now saying that President Obama saying he is looking for ways to close Gitmo via executive order. A lot of people saying this is another outrageous overreach of his executive authority. What do you think?
Well, it is. It's an overreach. It is clearly in contradiction to what has been passed in previous National Defense Authorization Act. It's counter to what's in the language of the National Defense Authorization Act that recently passed overwhelmingly by veto-proof majorities in the House and the Senate, a bill that he said that he will sign, and with that, it seems just ludicrous that he would go counter to language that he signed in the past. Since 2011, each of those National Defense Authorization Acts have had clear language in there prohibiting the transfer of detainees from Gitmo to the United States. Plain, simple, and clear. If the president doesn't abide by that, to me, we have to intercede and say, wait a minute, the Congress has spoken loudly, the president is not following the law, and I do believe that we would have standing with the courts to say the president cannot pursue that to stop him from that executive effort that he might try to put forward. To me, it's clear, and even folks on the other side of the aisle would agree that that's what the law says.
Well, our president seems to do whatever he wants, regardless of the laws or the Constitution, Congressman.
He does, and it's frustrating. And as you know, we've taken actions on a number of levels. As you know, several of the court cases you've seen, the court case that were filed by members of Congress to stop him on the executive branch overreach on immigration, and the courts have upheld Congress's assertion that the president has overstepped, first of all, his authority under the Constitution, but secondly, has not abided by the law of the land. And so the courts have clearly upheld Congress's determinations of the law, and I believe that they will do the same if he decides to circumvent the law and try to bring Gitmo detainees here to United States shores.
Unbelievable. I want to get your comments. Yesterday, the U.S. flying B-52 bombers near these disputed islands, these makeshift islands claimed by the Chinese. Was this by design? What was the object behind it? What will it do?
Well, I think it's very purposeful, John. As you know, recently also we sailed a destroyer within 12 miles of these islands. As you know, under the International Treaty of the Seas, those islands are not considered sovereign territory. Even though China claims that they are, those Spratly Islands actually belong to the Philippines. Now, China disputes that claim and says no, that they belong to China based on some claim of hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And what we have said is, under the International Treaty of the Seas, they are not sovereign territory, and we have the full right to sail within 12 miles of them and to fly over them. As you know, China has tried to put in place a no-fly zone in there, or essentially a zone that they claim as their sovereign air territory, which would require their permission to fly through. That's well outside what's recognized internationally. So the only way that you counter that claim is to say, no, under the international rules, we can clearly fly through there. Because if you don't do that, by default, then China gets that ability to claim that territory in the air and on the sea. So our efforts are clearly meant to define what the international law determines, and that China has to live by this. They can't just say, no, we're going to do it our way. They have to abide by international law. And let's face it, the United States is probably one of the only countries on the face of the earth that can go in there and do that and get China's attention, and then have this direct approach to determining what China claims, in which, by the way, is a false claim, in making sure that they don't try to continue to extend that, because they are looking to extend their reach throughout that South China Sea area. They have said that for them it's an historic claim, and that they are going to continue to claim that that area is their territorial sea, and that airspace there is airspace under their control. The only way we counter that is to fly our aircraft through there, let them know that we're going to do that, and the same with our ships. We notified them and said, listen, we're going to be sailing our ships in the area, we're going to be flying our aircraft through the area, but that's the only way that you counter a default Chinese claim on sovereignty in that airspace and in the seas.
And so if you just keep doing that, then that really negates their claim of sovereignty, right?
It does. It does. Now they can try to go to the World Court and say, no, this is our claim, but there's no precedence to show that it is their claim. But if you don't, John, if we don't push the issue, then by default China gets to claim it, because they say, hey, nobody's sailing through those waters, nobody's flying through our airspace, so therefore our claim must be valid. So we have got to contest that claim, because in absence of that, they will claim that that airspace in that area of the sea is sovereign Chinese territory.
As always, Congressman, you're 100% correct. More info, whitman.house.gov. Thanks for being with us, Congressman.
John, thanks again. Thanks for having me this morning.